The following presentation is for mature audiences only.
Who are you?
He's a fine man.
All hell is broken loose.
He's a great broadcaster.
He's a very powerful guy. Absolutely brilliant.
Feared by men, adored by women.
He's a smart boy.
It's patriotic.
It's no big deal.
It's the end of the world.
I might as well tell you now. He's a monkey.
And how you doing, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages? Welcome into another edition of The Wild Side with Eric Clark. I am your not in any way, shape, or form humble host, Eric Clark, saying thank you for taking time out of your busy day to give my little video a watch and a listen. I say it all the time, and I mean it every time. If you like it, like it. If you think somebody else is going to like it, give it a share, turn them on to the show, turn them on to the channel, and that way we can help the channel grow. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you're following me on all of my social media platforms. That way, again, the channel will grow. The more the channel grows, the more I can do and entertain you, because that's why I'm here, right? For you. Before we get going, I do want to say thank you to those that make The Wild Side with Eric Clark possible. That would be Aspen Dental and Connect 200. Without them, I wouldn't be here. So thank you very much to them. Thank you to everybody who has contributed to the channel, given me my new subs, and of course, given me my comments and suggestions. The reason I want you to hook up with me on social media is because sometimes here on YouTube, it can happen so quickly with the responses and the comments that things can become redundant very quickly. Things can get buried very quickly. So if you hook up with me on social media, whether it's Twitter or Facebook, you're able to DM me a message there and have a little bit more straight line of communication with me, especially if it's a sincere comment, suggestion, something like that. If you're just here to spin in circles and throw garbage, I'm probably just going to ignore you and move on. But I will do my best to respond to everybody's suggestions and comments. I will do my best to at least acknowledge you've taken time out of your day to leave that comment and to give me that direction. Again, when I'm going into these, I'm going into them stone cold. So I really have very little knowledge going in. I try not to do too much studying on anybody. That way, like I said, I'm going into it with as much innocence as possible. The flip side of that is I have been working in what is known as active rock radio, which would be, you know, anything released by a rock band this week, along with Pearl Jam, Van Halen, AC/DC, stuff like that. So it's called active rock. It was developed by a guy named Doug Podell at WRIF in Detroit back in the early 90s when classic rock stations or rock stations were starting to realize there was a big difference between what you were hearing in the early 70s and Nirvana, Candlebox, and things like that. So I've been dealing a lot with mainstream corporate rock radio. So the problem is I am inundated on a weekly and daily basis with new music. It is coming from corporate. It is coming from major labels with major promotion behind them. So sometimes artists will slip through the cracks, but I still have a little bit of information in my head about them because I saw them in a publication one time, or I heard someone say, hey, why aren't you playing this? Which we get a lot of. Hey, why aren't you playing more Pantera? Well, there's reasons behind that, but if you go into them with a Pantera fan, they don't agree with them. So again, thank you very much for taking time out of your day to give this a watch, a listen. Make sure you subscribe. If you have something to say, make sure you leave it below. But as always, make sure you're showing respect to each other. The one thing that a lot of people who aren't metal fans have this stigma in their head about heavy metal. They think everybody that listens to heavy metal is a juvenile delinquent, or they don't have a real job, or they're not good people, or satanic, or whatever. And I've had these arguments with folks about that's just not true, whether, again, you're helping somebody up in the pit or Bruce Dickinson is flying into Aleppo to help refugees. The metal community is a very welcoming, very open, very loving community. And I want to make sure that we're leading by example by conducting ourselves that way in this comment section. I know people want to say, well, that's how the internet is. But that doesn't mean we have to fall into that. And if you go through any of my videos, you'll see that I'm really trying my best to set an example of, yes, I know that's how people do it, but that doesn't mean we have to do it here. Again, I want to thank everybody for giving me the suggestions. Today's suggestion is coming from many people who have commented on my whether it was Love Bites or Wagaki Band, they were saying, hey, you need to head west and head into Finland, head into Germany, and check out some of that stuff. And I'm familiar with a lot of European metal, so I'm not challenging you. What I'm saying is it may be a little, you might have to go a little deeper for me to say, wow, I've never heard that before, or I have no idea who they are. Today, Nightwish was suggested to me, and I do know who Nightwish is because back in 2001, I was programming a rock station here in Nashville, Rooster 106, and part of this package that came in one week of CDs was, again, we get these compilations, and the compilations are from labels or they're from promotion companies, and they'll have just a ton of stuff on there, just weird stuff. I remember one back in the day, it was Sheryl Crow and Hootie and the Blowfish was on the same as Helmet or something like that, and it's like, wow, okay, these are completely different audiences, but it's a compilation disc that labels and management companies send out to radio stations so that we can go through and say, hey, I'm interested in this tune, I want to add it, we can report it, it can start spinning, and that way you can get the credit for a radio station playing that. So back in 2001, I saw a CD, and the only reason I remember is because of my own mistake, my own assumption. I saw the CD, and it said Nightwish, Over the Hills and Far Away. And I thought, wow, cool. A modern metal band is going to, a symphonic metal band, no less. You know, and in my head, I'm like, it's going to be awesome, is going to do a Zeppelin tune. But I was mistaken. It wasn't a Zeppelin tune. It was actually Gary Moore's version, his song, Over the Hills and Far Away, that I think was released. See, I picked up Still Got the Blues in the early 90s, and it was before that. So somewhere in the mid to late 80s, he had released that. Whether it was a single or an album, I don't remember. But, if you're a fan of metal, you really need to be into Gary Moore. So I am familiar with Nightwish, and I believe at the time the lead singer was not the lead singer who's with them now. Floor Jansen is the singer who's with them now, and this is who everybody's telling me, I've got to see this. The singer prior to her, and they've had three, the singer prior to her is in another band now, and I can't remember the name. Annette something was her name, and I don't even remember the name of the first female singer for Nightwish. So between 2001 and now, I have had people say, hey, dude, you got to check out this band. So going through everybody's comments and trying to figure out which Nightwish song it is you want me to watch, the one comment that got the most play would be this one here, which is Ghost Love Score, recorded live in 2013 at the Wacken Open Air. So that's what we're going to check out today. This is Nightwish, Ghost Love Score, live Wacken 2013 with Floor Jansen on lead vocals. I think this was her first foray. let me jump in here real quick and have to just for a second. Really heavy. I dig symphonic metal because one of the great things about symphonic metal, especially a band like this, who I can already tell, going back to the videos I've done before, you can tell right away these are proficient musicians. These are, if you need the best at something, you're going to call someone from this band. Obviously, it is obvious that the drummer, the keyboardist, the guitarist, the bassist, everybody is in that pocket. The energy right here, it's almost, it is second nature. It's walking for them. It's part of them. Their instruments aren't an instrument. They and their instrument are one thing. So I am hearing that early symphonic, that Celtic Frost, who was that other band? Therion, was it? I think it was named after a Celtic Frost album. So I'm hearing the Priest, the Ostrogoth, the King Diamond. I'm hearing that early European metal vibe. But what I'm also catching from it, and this is where working in mainstream radio, it'll come to head like Apocalyptica. When you hear that, it makes it bigger. Okay, so you're hearing in symphonic metal, you get better music because it's constructed, it's composed, it's written and performed the way Rachmaninoff would perform something, or Chopin would perform something, or Beethoven or Tchaikovsky. Tchaikovsky, by the way, is metal of classical music. But anyway, I'm getting that real thick, real heavy. Her vocals, Floor Jansen's vocals here, and I've talked about this before, obvious training. Whether it be operatic, whether it be jazz, whatever kind of vocal training she has had, it's obvious. Or she's a freak of nature, because it does take training to learn how to control that power from the soul through the teeth. It does take a little bit of, hey, here's how you do that. So obviously she's been guided or trained in some way. And I'm almost positive wherever she was trained, sat down, put out a couple notes, and the instructor was like, all right, here's your sword. You're now the master, but just try this. There you go. Really good. And I talked about this before in the previous video, her vocals at that range, at that octave range, and she's really stretching the range there. Her vocals here are thick. Even though that note is high, even though her tone is high, she's thick in that sound. So I'm really impressed, only 3 minutes into this, her ability to be her own instrument and create a thickness that's on par with the bass, the guitars, the drum, the keys, and the entire vibe of the song. So very impressed. Thank you for the suggestion. And when you see me close my eyes, by the way, I'm seeing colors. So I'm seeing everything in colors. That's how I see things when I hear music. So every instrument is creating a color and an energy, and I hear that, and I see if it's all coming together. I hope that helps understand how I see it, but that's what I'm doing.
Siren from the deep came to me, sang my name, my Lord. Still I write my songs about the dream of mine, worth everything I may ever be. The child will be born again, that siren carried him to me. First of them
very well composed. This is very well composed music, regardless of what genre you want to try to put this. This is a very well composed song. And schools should study that. If you're a music teacher, this is how you compose a song. It's brilliant. You know, when I'm talking about composition and structure, bands like this put them in. When I hear that, it puts them to me in the realm of Tool, in the realm of Alice in Chains. These are composed by musicians, man. These aren't just guys writing hits and gals singing tunes. These are people writing pieces of music. Like, it's crazy good. Wow. Okay. Yeah, I might need a cigarette after that. Wow, that was. First, let me apologize to the band. First, let me start by saying, as someone who has worked in corporate radio, mainstream rock radio, as a programmer, as a music director, having had added Apocalyptica, Skillet, many of these metal bands along the years, first let me apologize by saying I didn't fight hard enough for you. Me, the individual, had all of us collectively had fought as hard as we could have and should have. Although hampered by corporate media, we are. And the relationship between corporate radio and record labels and promotion companies is very dangerous to talk about. It really is. And it's something that is a whole other video I could discuss. So even though I apologize for not fighting for a band like this, it is corporate radio. But still the same. I apologize on behalf of the programming industry for not, because if you're going to play Evanescence, if you're going to play Kitty, if you're going to play those, Hailstorm, this should have been added first. This should have been something, if you're going to bring symphonic rock into the mainstream, bring in the best. Look, and again, these aren't comparisons. I'm not here to rank anybody above anyone. I'm not here to say that this is a better band than Evanescence or this is a better band than Skillet. I'm not here to say that. That's for you to decide. That's for these people in the crowd to decide. And I loved seeing the the name of the band just left it was cool to see that shirt in the audience. But I grew up in the 70s. That's where I started listening to rock and roll. So the female voices that I've been listening to over the years have set standards. So Ann Wilson comes to mind. Pat Benatar comes to mind. When I hear a female vocalist, I immediately put them up against everything I have in my head. Johnette Napolitano from Concrete Blonde, one of the most powerful female voices in rock and roll. And it is hard for females to command that control in rock and roll. It is a very testosterone-laden genre outside of the people who are fans of this band. And you've got to do that in my job. My job is to take myself out of the shoes of the fan and see the entirety, see it as a whole. So I'm a fan of that. And again, I apologize for not being someone on the forefront at the beginning of this way back in 2000, 2001 saying, hey, man, this is a band we need to be playing, at least on our station. Because again, if you're going to play Evanescence, if you're going to play Apocalyptica, you should be playing that. As far as the band goes, obviously this band has been together and playing for a very long time. I've talked about in my other videos bands being in the pocket. The more metal you get, the more symphonic in metal you get, the more technical you need to be proficient, the more clean you have to play. There's really, while there are sliding up and down frets, it's not because you're trying to jump. That's purposeful. Every note that these people play is for a specific reason. And I love that because this is a piece of music. This is no different than the 1812 Overture. These are pieces of music. We've just modernized it and put it on an album and said, here's a CD. But this is a piece of music. These aren't hit makers. The industry is filled with them. And that's the battle bands like this really face, because we as the people who are out there, getting on the radio and helping promote these bands, we know 50% of the music we're playing is garbage. We don't like 50% of the bands we play because they're just hit makers. They're just churning them out because there's a guy in a tie sitting in a studio with a cigar, like the Pink Floyd song, where's my money? Where's my investment? So they've got to crank out these hits and get these hits. These are artists. These are auditory artists here. So I know that I think they were on Roadrunner back in the day, and then they went on to a Finnish label because that's the label that the Over the Hills and Far Away was on a Finnish label that's real prominent with metal artists, but I believe they were on Roadrunner at first. And of course, Roadrunner probably didn't give them any promotion, probably didn't give them any love, didn't sit there and call the 85 radio station saying, hey, you should be playing this tune. So I think that a lot of the reason the mainstream doesn't know about a band like Nightwish is simply for promotion. Because if anyone who loves music sat down and just listened to that opening and listened to that band, you'd be hooked. And we talk about this all the time in music. We have, more hooks than a tackle box. That song is just laden with hooks. A great example of a hook would be the opening to Sponge Plowed. Great hook. So the thing about this band is that they hook you without a hook. It's not a hook because these are, it's hard to describe. Because in my head, I see that these colors are blending to form one color. So it's not a hook. They're writing music with each other and it's creating this one sound. And I love that. It's big, it's bold, it's grand. This is obviously music to invade by, if you get that joke. So now let's talk about Floor Jansen. I referenced earlier people like Johnette Napolitano and Ann Wilson and Pat Benatar, Debbie Harry. These voices, these female voices that can hit these high ranges and bring that hammer while still maintaining a thickness to the voice. So again, they're not reaching any notes that we're not seeing reached by John Bon Jovi or Bret Michaels. So you can't give me the whole, hey, it's a really high-pitched note and guys don't like high. You can't do that. That argument is invalid. Her voice is its own instrument, without a doubt. I don't think anyone... And I know that she is the third singer for this band. And I bet if I go back and I listen to the first singer and then Annette and then Floor, I'll hear all great but different. You're not replicating her voice. No one's going to do this karaoke. If you ever see this pop up on someone's karaoke board, walk outside and smoke a cigarette or do something, throw a snowball. I don't know. But nobody's doing this. You can tell that she has been singing for a long time. I've talked about before about how one of the difficulties of singing metal is right in here. It's right in this area here because the control of your note, the control of what you're saying is actually up in here. If you do it correctly, when I speak, if you see me, I'm sitting straight up and I let my guts fall. Everything is loose down here. I don't tighten my gut. I don't tighten my core. Because that's where all of this is coming from. So I have to control it here. Metal singers sometimes fall into the issue of going from here, and they use their esophagus to control those notes, and then you end up without a voice. She obviously knows how to control that howitzer that she's got, because that is a 155 mic right there. She's launching HEs 30 miles downrange, kids. And it's fire for effect, and it's danger close. That is incredible. So she's really good about starting it here and allowing it to come past the danger zone and then hit that control. And look, I heard 3 octaves there. I heard her go from here to here in one breath. That is incredible. And the control of that is something to be admired, and not many people can do. These are opera singers. These are jazz singers. Being able to hold that note at that strength, at that width for that long is absolutely phenomenal. So again, I'm blown away by that. And speaking of her voice, I talked in other videos about how sometimes you can get thin. Sometimes in music, you can get real thin. Sometimes an instrument will play over another one, and it creates a distorted thinness, a tinniness, if you will. Either A, their sound engineer is the greatest sound engineer in the world, or B, they are that good, and this guy just sets the levels and sits back like this and talks to the chicks. I'm going to go with B, by the way. Her voice needs no work. She's obviously able to step up to that microphone and hit that range. So now let's talk about her presence. Again, that's a whole other instrument right there. She walked out to Wacken and controlled 100,000 people. merely by standing there. She owned that space. A lot of times people talk about performers as having an ego, and you have to. I don't sit here and try to deny my ego or explain it to anybody. You have to have an ego. You have to have confidence to walk out there on that stage in front of all those people and tear your flesh off and pour your soul out to them. You have to control that space. If you do not control that space, they'll eat you alive. She had everybody right there. That control is coming from her power. And it's not just her voice. It's her aura. It's her presence. So kudos to her for having developed that over the years, because it does take time to develop. But she has developed that command of presence, which is what I look for. When anytime someone says, hey, go check out this band, tell me what you think. I'm looking at command of presence. I'm looking at the relationship that the band is having with the audience. I look at the relationship the band has with each other. And it's very important that all three of these, the Trinity, kind of equal out. So her command of presence is enormous. You're not mistaking. Like, it didn't surprise me that nobody had their phones up. I saw maybe one or two people with their camera or phone up trying to get this documented. It didn't surprise me in any way, shape, or form that she had everybody so wrapped in her aura that they didn't even think to go, shit, I better document that. Because this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to stand there and witness what you're seeing in front of you. I remember I was at a Perfect Circle show, and it was right in the middle of the show, and they were just killing it. And it was just this enormous amount of energy in the room. And I kept seeing people walk by on their phone, and I kept slapping it out of their hand. Dude, stop, watch this. You may never get to see this again. This is a lightning in a bottle. So the relationship that they had with the audience, again, you could see it. That told me they had that audience. The audience was there for them, man. You're talking about people who go to metal fans are loyal. They are loyal. They don't call themselves armies for nothing. So obviously the Nightwish army or whatever they call themselves is thick and loyal. That was good. And the relationship that the band had. Now, here's what I don't want you to get confused with. When I'm watching them walk around, I see and I go, that could be mistaken for casual. That could be mistaken. Somebody, an outsider, a dissenter, if you will, someone who's there to poo-poo on heavy metal, could look at that and go, well, they're not that good, man. Look, they're just walking around. No, they're that precise. That's what you're seeing. That's what I saw anyway. I could be wrong. I could be totally wrong. But I didn't see casual. What I saw was precision. I saw meaning, and I saw commitment. And the fact that those three things were also producing a beautiful piece of music that covered every color in the spectrum in my brain, it's just absolutely wonderful. And so I thank everybody for suggesting this video. And I'll link everything below with the band page and the video page and all that. So again, thank you. And again, to the band, I say, as a former program director, music director in active rock radio, I'm sorry you didn't get enough support from us. And that's really not our fault, because we as programmers are beholden to the vice presidents of programming. And I'm sorry that no big label that had a ton of money to promote you and get you out there to make you the biggest metal band in the world. Bro, that's going to be hard to keep up with. Again, I got to see Apocalyptica open for Alice in Chains. And I would fear that by that performance alone, I would fear that Nightwish would have gone up on that stage at the Memorial Auditorium in Nashville, Tennessee, and made everybody forget who Alice in Chains and Apocalyptica were. That's just my thought. That's just my thought about this band. Again, these are just my opinions. I'm not ranking anybody. I'm not saying that any one of these bands I highlight are any better than anyone else. That's not what I'm doing, because I'm no one to say that. I'm no one to tell you who's better than anybody. That's up for you. But thank you for suggesting Nightwish. I'm going to get deeper into this catalog as well. So hopefully I don't go too far into it while other people are making more suggestions. Ghost Love Score is the name of the track. from Nightwish. That was live Wacken 2013. Again, if you have a suggestion for me, a video you want me to check out, a band you want me to check out, a song you want me to check out, leave a link below or a comment below, or find me on social media, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and you can direct message me there as well. I try to get through all the comments. I try to at least recognize and thank you for making the comment, for making the suggestion. But remember, the fans come out, as I learned with Wagaki Band and Love Bites. It's a very fast snowball down a very steep hill. So I try my best to keep up with everything. I do write everything down. I make lots of notes. I try to show you the respect of recognizing your suggestion and recognizing your request. Do the same for everybody else. Try to read through the comments. Just make sure you're not being redundant and just overflowing me with everything and overwhelming me with stuff. And I'll try to make sure I'm bringing quality videos to you as well. Again, thank you for suggesting Nightwish. I think I'm going to add somebody to my Spotify playlist and slap something down on my phone so I can jam in the car. Again, symphonic rock. I love symphonic metal. That was absolutely brilliant. Thank you to everybody for giving me the suggestions in the comments. Thank you to Nightwish for making such a wonderful, beautiful piece of art. I want to thank Aspen Dental and Connect 200. They make sure that the Wild Side with Eric Clark comes at you at a high quality. Make sure you're following me on all of my social media. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel so you can get the update. I say it every time and I mean it every time. Sorry, I'm still dealing with this chest cold. Make sure you're looking out for each other. Make sure you're looking out for your neighbor. Try to do at least one good thing a day. I'm Eric Clark. This has been The Wild Side.